All right, students, class 5, we're getting into physical geography. That's right. I like this class. I like looking at the world, studying it, understanding it more. So today we're going to be looking at a couple of different things. One is we're going to be looking at races and ethnicities. So pull out class number 5. Right? It's interesting with the Bible when you look at a biblical reference to races and ethnicities. For instance, I'm going to look right here. Got my computer so I can look something up. It's very interesting to find. I'm going to look up, Bible.com. Where's the enter thing for here? So we do that. Okay. So Bible.com. I love it. Actually, no, that's not the one I wanted. I wanted Blue Letter Bible. There we go. Blue Letter Bible. It's a great reference and study for studying the Bible. So I'm going to look up the word race. Okay, we're looking up the word race. And we'll go in the King James Version. Do you know the King James Version does not mention the word race until the book of Psalms? And not one mention of the word race has anything to do with someone's skin color. It's very interesting. Then we look up race. Let's look up the New American Standard Version. Okay, it's pretty close to it. And let's see about that. Okay, so Ezra has a few lists of race. Let's see, Ezra 9:2, that starts out. It says, "For they have taken some of their daughters as wives for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy race has intermingled." Let's look up this word race. See what it says. See what it means. So this word, race, actually means seed, or descendant, or offspring, or child. So it doesn't even have anything to do with what we typically figure and talk about when we say race. Sometimes certain versions will say the Abrahamic race, but it's actually a better way of saying it would be people group. So in biblical terms, our idea of races being this thing where you can determine by someone's skin color is really an unbiblical idea. We talk about people groups, about cultural groups, because all of those things can be distinctly seen by the people's choices and actions. But it's very hard to decide your race. You were born that way. And I bring this up because right now we've got a lot of things going on in the nation. You're going to see about things happening between different races. And this idea of race as being some barrier that separates us really is something that is an evil thought, because the Bible teaches us to love one another. Even in the New Testament, it talked about servants and masters serving their slaves. During Jesus' time, I think it was up to 80 to 90% of the Roman world, were slaves. Not just people who were dark-skinned, light-skinned, anybody who got conquered ended up being somebody's slave. So as we go through this, just keep that in your mind about this idea of races, and let's look and see more of what maybe a biblical view of that is. So let's also go ahead and pull out your Class 5 Physical Geography 16 page. Some of these, let's see, 1, 2, 3 of these are going to be things that come from what I explain and what else, and yeah, what we do. All right, so let's start at the very top. We'll read a little bit, you'll read a little bit, and we'll go from there. It says, in Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure-domed decree, where Alph the sacred river ran through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground with walls and towers were girded round. And there were gardens bright with sinuous rills where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree. And here were forests ancient as the hills, enfolding sunny spots of greenery. Now, this is a poem about Kubla Khan, and he was a Mongol warrior and the grandson of the great Genghis Khan. And you'll read a little bit more about him. It says, these lines were penned by an American poet, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, known for his rhyming narrative poetry in the 18th and 19th century. The poem is a popular inclusion in many high school literature textbooks and is actually a historical reflection rather than a whimsical fantasy. Kubla Khan, often spelled Kublai Khan, was a 13th century Mongol and Chinese emperor, the grandson of the great Genghis Khan and ruler of the largest empire in history. That's right, the largest empire in history, and we'll see just how big it gets. He presided over the greatest extent of the Mongol Empire, which in 1279 AD stretched over an area twice the size of modern Russia, from Indochina to Scandinavia. Kublai Khan oversaw the development of innovative new technologies in warfare and construction and was emperor when European explorer Marco Polo visited China. So Kublai became a household name in Europe. The poem touches on some aspects of his power, including the construction and beautification projects he initiated. Going on, tracing the histories and complexities in Asia's ethnic group is no small task. The continent's sheer size present the typical problems such as large quantity of distant tribes and people groups, complex patterns of migration and assimilation, and uncertain histories, especially back farther than 2,000 years. So when you have a large area and a lot of groups, oftentimes they would come together and mix and separate and mix and separate, and so it's hard to really trace people's roots. You can go do it for a certain time, but when you have a nation or a continent that has thousands of years of history, the United States as a nation, we're pretty young, pretty new to the scene. There were nations that lasted in China thousands of years, dynasties that lasted thousands of years, which is pretty incredible. It says about a half dozen major empires controlled large swaths of Asia in the history, often in the form of dynasties that rose to prominence and fell just as quickly. All right, so that's right here. I want you to read all of this, and we're going to come down here to where it says the empire was founded. It says the empire was founded by King Cyrus, whose descendants turned the Persian Empire into the world's largest empire today. All right, Cyrus, right? Do you remember who Cyrus was? Any of you? Let's think about the Bible. King Cyrus, who was he? Any ideas? If you look up, and this is why it's something that's very important to Jewish and also Christian history, is what King Cyrus did. So let's look up 2 Chronicles 36:22. If you got your Bible, go ahead and stop for a moment, pull it out. 2 Chronicles 36:22. Let's go over here. All right, I'm going to change what I'm looking at. 2 Chronicles 36:22. Uh-oh, I have the wrong one. 2 Chronicles 36, not 22. 36, verse 22. It says, now, in the first year of King Cyrus, king of Persia, so we're talking about the same guy, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah. So Jeremiah was a prophet, and he prophesied about this. It says, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia. This is the Lord doing something with a pagan king. He is a complete pagan. So that he sent a proclamation throughout his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven. So he's recognizing the Jewish God, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and has appointed me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Whoever there is among you of all his people, may the Lord his God be with you, and let him go up. So these people had been in captivity, and he said, and this king Cyrus, for whatever reason, because the Lord stirred it in him, he said, all right, I want you to go back to your place, go back to your homeland, and I want you to rebuild your temple. That was the fulfillment of the prophecy. And that's why he was so important and related so much to Jewish and Christian history, is the fact he's the one who sent people back to restore the temple that had been destroyed 70 years earlier. All right, it says the Persians warred continuously during their existence. They were a very fighting nation, or people, fighting most famously with the small Babylonian Empire and the larger Macedonian Empire, located on the Greek peninsula. Persia's conflicts with Babylon led to the release of the Jewish people who had been in captivity for several decades, 70 years actually. Its conflicts with Greece were collectively known as the Greco-Persian Wars, one of the better-known ancient clashes for two events. The first came in 490 BC when the Greeks defeated a much stronger Persian force in a battle at Marathon, Greece. A Greek messenger is said to have run 26.2 miles from the battlefield to Athens to announce Greece's victory, after which he died on the spot. It says the modern marathon race is taken from this event. So marathons are 26.2 miles. So let's see, let's keep going. Let's go to, let's see, where were we? We're going to go. Okay, so we stopped right here, right? Where it says 26.2 miles. I want you all to read this, and read this and this. And then we're going to pick up right here where it says the Roman Empire's ascent. That's page 31, so follow along. The Roman Empire's ascent to power unified the Mediterranean region under one banner, including parts of the West Asian lands of Turkey, Israel, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq. And this became a very important part of Christian history, and the reason being is how did Rome and the building of Rome help Christianity? Do you remember? Rome did a lot of things in Europe. What were things that they made, Emmanuel? Well, one of the main things was roads. It enabled people to travel easily, which enabled the gospel to travel easily, and also protection to a certain extent. It was a fairly stable time, so the gospel could spread, and it also language. Unified under one language a lot, and so what happened is people began to be able to read the Gospels that were written, and they were able to spread. The biggest thing is when you unify an area under one government, whether or not that government is tyrannical or not, it oftentimes allows for people to move fairly safely within that area. If you think about Paul and all of his missionary trips, all of that happened during the Roman Empire. And so that's the important part that the Roman Empire played with Christianity. Let's see. I'm going to go over I'm just going to go straight to one of the questions. Let's see, how much more do we have? I'm going to let you all finish the reading, I believe. Let me see. Let me make sure. Well, actually, I'm going to read a few more things. It says, when the banner split in 285, these lands fell under control of the Eastern Roman Empire, which subsequently became the Byzantine Empire, headquartered at Constantinople. Constantinople maintained significant power in the region for more than 1,000 years and mingled Arab and Asian influences with Western, as seen perhaps most notably in their architecture. The Byzantines clashed with the Arabs over territory and cultural issues for much of their existence in the Byzantine-Arab Wars, which ended better for the Arabs than the Byzantines. Modern Turkish people and many sizable minorities near Syria blend European and Arabic traits, with olive skin, generally dark hair, and dark eyes. Again, we have a mix of cultures that ends up having a mix of physical features. So you have Arab and European mixtures, and so you get people that look different. Let's see. Now we're going to skip down to, need to get to Genghis Khan. Let's see. So I'm going to have you read all of page 32, or the rest of page 32, and then we will get to, here we go. On page 33, where it says the Mongols. It says the Mongols rose to power under Genghis Khan, who gained a reputation as both a fierce warlord and a scientific learned man. Purportedly open-minded about culture and religious issues, he united nomadic tribes and forged them a common identity as Mongol peoples. Now, this is very important when you want to unite a people, is giving them a united identity. So if you take all of these different people groups in Asia, unite them under one identity, you give them a common purpose and something to come together about. And that's what he did. He used their identity. He united them as, quote unquote, a Mongol people that would be able to grow and expand. And his territory, his empire, like I said, it's been the largest in history. No other person or no other leader has been able to unite that much territory. So Genghis Khan was the one who brought the Mongol people to power, and he was able to do it by uniting them under a common identity, a common role or a common idea of who they were. And that is, again, I say that is extremely important when you're trying to unify people. You've got to unify people around an idea or something they can grasp or hold on to. It says, during his reign and the reign of his son Ogedei and grandson Kublai, the Khans of Mongolia acquired a vast territory, subduing Chinese peoples and Arab Muslims in the Middle East. The growth is nearly as shocking in its rapidity as its extent, as it occurred in barely 70 years. So the largest kingdom ever formed happened in 70 years. But it was stopped. Remember, we talked some about the limits of Asia, about we have the Ural Mountains, about underneath it's a Caspian Sea, underneath that it's deserts, and to the east you've got the Indian Ocean and then many islands in the Pacific Ocean. It hemmed them in to be able to only expand to a certain extent, and that was providential. The growth is nearly, let's see, in China the Mongol Empire spawned the Yuan dynasty in 1271, which carried the empire far for another century, another 100 years, and became powerful in the north. Okay, so I'm going to let y'all read the rest of that. So you've got some questions to answer. I have definitely answered all of the ones that you need to see, or the ones that say video, so make sure if you didn't get it the first time, go back and listen again and see if you can catch where I explained those things, because I specifically made sure I covered those things. So if you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, have a good day.